So, the question I want to ask is, are we woke right? Because a plot has been discovered, a nefarious force is controlling the world, and only James Lindsay seems switched on to this. That there is a sort of shadowy figure operating behind the scenes, which is, well, I mean, it's quite diabolical when we get into it. But the question I wanted to ask is, who are the woke right? I mean, is that us? I mean, it seems to be. We're hearing a lot about it lately, and I'm a bit confused because, as far as I can tell, there's really only sort of two people pushing this woke right idea, at least at the moment. We got a chap here in the UK called, what's his name, Kissin something, and works with trigonometry, and he's been pushing the whole woke right.
Kissin, yes.
That's the one. He's been pushing the woke right idea, and in the US they've got this James Lindsay character who's sort of pushing it, and I think what it is it's people who were formerly lefties who have become right-wingers but still have left-wing tendencies and are trying to explain away why they are now the sort of the wets of the movement that they find themselves in. So as far as I can tell, their conception is that if you're woke right, it's because you're a right-winger and you agree with them on the social stuff. However, you don't agree with Hillary Clinton on the geopolitical stuff. You're not up for bombing everywhere. You're not up for endless war. The people who go on about the woke right, they tend to care about things like, last week it was Russia, Ukraine, and then it's Israel, Iran.
Well, as I understand it, it's simply a gatekeeping term,
yes.
At least as they're using it,
yes.
To try and keep out anyone to the right of centre, basically.
Yeah, but the guys who are doing this are so close to the centre that they're just on the periphery of the left as it is.
Exactly.
So they're trying to gatekeep basically the entire right.
If you remember Konstantin Kissin, he threw a bit of a tantrum about that, I forgot his name now, the historian that went and spoke to Tucker Carlson.
Oh yeah, Marty Maid.
That's it, yeah. That's the one. Thank you for remembering it. Him criticising Churchill, and then we had that round table about Churchill.
Yes. Well, I was very critical of Churchill as well.
Yeah, so was I.
So presumably that makes me woke right.
Yeah, but yes. There are lots of legitimate criticisms of Churchill, and the bitter irony is that they're deifying a figure and overlooking lots of their flaws.
Yes.
In order to push a narrative. Sure, he did do some good things, but also there are lots of things that you can look at that you can legitimately criticise.
Yes.
And so to just blanketly say you've got to support this person, otherwise you're woke right, or I don't know whether Kissin's actually saying that, but he's been
Kissin I think is more on the geopolitical side, but Lindsay's an interesting character. I actually quite like Lindsay at first because he's one of these rejects from the left that found that they had gone mad. He kind of came to our attention I think in about 2018. Now, let me play you this short clip of where Lindsay came from. So basically he was part of this group that put up all these fake studies, and it was all sorts of nonsense. I mean, I remember one was called the conceptual penis that basically suggested that the penis was not an actual physical thing, it was a concept that was invented by the patriarchy. Another one was they basically took Mein Kampf and rewrote it subtly to make it sound like a woke left. Well, and you only need to rewrite it subtly to make it sound like a woke left thing, actually, by changing a few key terms. And they managed to get Mein Kampf peer-reviewed and endorsed and published. And so
it was funny, wasn't it? But
yes. Yeah, so it's quite funny, the first thing he did. And Lee, let me play you this clip of to give you a flavour of where it started from, because I think the first one was about dog parks.
Dear Dr. Helen Wilson, I have now closely considered the revisions of your manuscript, Dog Park, and will recommend its publication in Gender, Place, and Culture. You have done very good work to address the issues reviewers raised and have clarified your arguments. Thank you for your contribution to Gender, Place, and Culture, and I hope to be seeing your manuscript in print. Yours truly, PhD, Managing Editor, Gender, Place, and Culture. We have an accepted paper in the #1 feminist geography journal.
Since approximately June of 2017, I, along with two other concerned academics, Peter Boghossian and Helen Pluckrose, have been writing intentionally broken academic papers and submitting them to highly respected journals in fields that study gender, race, sexuality, and similar topics. We did this to expose a political corruption that's taken hold of the university. By this point, several of these papers have been accepted in highly respected journals, and one that claims that dog humping incidents can be taken as evidence of rape culture has been officially honored as excellent scholarship. I'm not going to lie to you, we had a lot of fun with this project.
I think we get the gist, don't we?
Yeah. So, funny stuff, good troll, lots of fun. So he appeared on the scene, obviously a leftist that got pushed out of the left because they had gone so completely mad that he couldn't kind of deal with it anymore. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, fair enough. Having done this, he can't go back to academia, can he? Because, you know, they're a bit closed-minded at the best of times.
Yeah, well, I think that the people who would approve of what he's done would keep their head down, and the people who are most vocal are the ones that
come after
push this stuff. Yeah.
So he's done in academia at this point, but this gets a lot of attention. You know, he goes on lots of shows, Rogan, stuff like that. Peterson had him on, I think. So he pivots into being a right-wing pundit. Fair enough. I mean, there's lots of them. So off he goes. And he's clearly a competitive guy. So he describes himself as pro-American, anti-communist, based AF, and then he has 3 US flags. I mean, I only have 1 British flag in my Twitter profile. He has 3.
Same as me, yeah.
Yeah, and based AF. So right, okay, so he's as based as it gets. Mm-hmm. And I can understand why somebody who has spent their entire life surrounded by lefties with his set of opinions would swiftly come to the conclusion that they're based AF. And then he started mixing with people like us. And he rapidly discovered that actually he is not based AF. He is still basically a lefty on most issues.
So if you don't know what that term means, it means correct.
Yes.
Basically.
Yes. So he has to sort of justify to himself how he can be this ultra competitive, I'm more based than anyone, while slowly coming to realise that everyone around him is actually more based than he is. So he's going to need some sort of something to hang this on. Also, possibly some daddy issues in there. Yes. So I get the impression that he got dragged to church quite a lot as a kid, and he genuinely hated it. And whatever else went on.
That story a lot, to be fair.
Yes. So I think he's written 3 books on why God doesn't exist.
Yeah,
yes.
I think that topic's been addressed enough. I mean, I'm an atheist. I don't necessarily feel the need to shout about it.
Or write 3 books on it.
No, I've never written a single book on it, in fact.
Yes. He's part of the new atheist movement. You know, as I said, he was a Democrat for a long time. He voted for... I think he helped campaign for Obama and stuff. It was only latterly that he realised that the left had gone so mad that he couldn't stay on it. But now that he's on the right, of course, lots of his friends, his new friends, are Christians. And you can tolerate that to an extent. But every so often something will trigger him and push him over the edge. And one of those incidents happened because Sunday before last... Sunday before last, because it's Monday now, 29th of September, was the Feast of St. Michael. Mm-hmm. And Trump put out this, where he basically acknowledges the Feast of St. Michael and, puts up an image of the Archangel, St. Michael. Kind of thing you do on religious holidays, you sort of acknowledge them, move on.
Yep.
Lindsay did not like this. And what it triggered was basically, and we're into the second week now, of epic spurging. I mean, I don't know if it's even still hundreds of tweets at this point.
It can't be thousands, surely.
I'm not sure, because I started to scroll back and I thought, it must be back to last Sunday by now. And it turned out I wasn't even yesterday yet. There are hundreds of these things that he's been going out. But let's see if we can get to the root of what it is that he's uncovered, this dark, shadowy plot. So, the Archangel Michael is apparently in league with Lucifer and a Zoroastrian demon.
I don't remember learning about that aspect.
Well, he's
Christianity.
he's brought the goods here. The Mission of Archangel Michael by Rudolf Steiner. And let's see if we can just click into, is it this bit here? Here we go. Members of the blah, 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 who accompanied humans' evolution, how we can help us transcend ideas, blah, blah, blah. And there's a lot of waffle here. As the countenance of Christ, Michael helps us find balance between Luciferians and Aramaic tendencies. Aramaic.
Aramanic? I thought it was Aramaic.
The
but
old,
it's Aramanic?
the old
I don't know.
dualism, such as good versus evil, says Steiner, needs to be replaced by the Holy Trinity of Lucifer, Christ, and Ahriman. Ahriman is that Zoroastrian demon that I referred to a few moments ago. In fact, I think we have a.
Okay.
Here we go. There's an image of Ahriman, the Zoroastrian.
Is that him
demon.
upside down? What's going on, or is he the guy throwing the African?
I'm not. No, I thought that Ahriman was the one on top.
Well, the one being thrown.
I mean, he could just be a McDonald's worker. I don't know.
He's got very big eyes. Look at him. He looks shocked.
Well, whichever one of them is the demon, the point is that at least one of them is the demon, and this is obviously a dark trinity between Michael, Ahriman, the Zoroastrian demon, and Lucifer. So James has hit upon some pretty substantial themes here, and well, obviously he says Michael is literally identical to Satan and Hermes. So I think we're bringing in the Greek gods now as well.
Blimey, is very inclusive.
Now, I'm not that good on my whole Catholic dogma, but I actually think the archangels are one of the lower choirs. So I think you get angels and then archangels, and they're fairly low down the ranking. So Gabriel and Michael are archangels, and then Lucifer, he was at the very top anyway, one of the most senior choirs. But I don't know exactly how it works. But anyway,
I wasn't brought up.
Yeah.
Religious in any way, so I don't know, I'm afraid.
But I think the idea is that Lucifer and Michael are angels, and therefore they're equivalent, and therefore if people are tweeting about Michael, well, you might as well be tweeting about the devil or something like that. I mean, his logic is
that doesn't seem to be right to me, though, with what little I do know. But you never know. It could be right.
Yes. So, but I mean, he's hitting upon dark supernatural powers here, masters of the universe at work in the background, conspiring to bring Trump low through complicated mechanisms.
Well, is he basically saying that via this Michael figure, they're trying to get Trump to do some sort of deal with the devil and turn him evil?
Quite possibly. I think that's... Well, he does explain. Let's get into his explanation. So it's actually Operation Michael, okay. And it's designed to undermine the anti-woke right. So he's calling us, people like us and our friends, woke right, and so the anti-woke right, which is him and kissing on.
Or maybe he means the genuine anti-woke right, as in just all of anyone who is anti-woke on the right.
But I mean, this is an epically long sort of tweet thread that we're getting into now, so I just want to put out the key bit. So Operation Michael was designed to undermine the anti-woke right. It's a damn shame Trump has been pulled into this, probably on deliberately bad advice. So this is a cabal that is sort of sending him aside. Most Americans, even Catholics, don't know anything about Archangel Michael except in the very vaguest sense, such as Lindsay himself, as it would seem. Theosophists have a very particular and very evil interpretation of Michael as the bringer of the new age and the driver of human evolution, in which they seek to explicitly control. He is the bridge and mediator for them between the figures of Christ, Lucifer, and the Zoroastrian demon of chaos and division, Ahriman, who they regard as equally sacred, right, and parts of the tribune whole.
Triune.
The spiritualism of this occult religion is already completely infused into your children's schools through emotional learning.
Social emotional learning, which is more of a developmental psychology theory, and I don't understand where he's got that from.
You are mistaken, Josh. It is a dark Luciferian plot to subvert your children.
I'm sorry, I was mistaken.
Yes. Elements of this view will be sprinkled in various subtle ways, but never openly invoking Lucifer or Ahriman, but only their positive seeming attributes to ensnare good-believing Christians and new Christians who lack the discernment to avoid being taken astray.
That's very concerning.
Well, it is concerning, but not everybody understands the gravity of this situation. So, here we go. The response I like was from General Mike Flynn. He responds, "You're nuts. Yesterday was the feast of St. Michael. Can't you simply appreciate a prayer instead of spewing your philosophical bullshit?" So
he's not taking this conspiracy nearly seriously enough.
Well, the good general thinks that it's merely a feast, a Catholic tradition. But Lindsay puts him in his place. With all due respect, General, I think you're nuts. I hope you are. Evil would be worse. So it's possible that General Flynn is also part of this evil trinity to subvert children and Trump, which is
very worrying indeed.
Yes. We got another thread from Lindsay, which he tries to explain what the woke right is, and it's epically long. Like I say, there have been hundreds, if not thousands, of tweets from him in the last week or so. So I'm just going to pick out a couple of bits. What is the woke right? There is a growing movement that is reaching breakout velocity on the right, that is ostentatiously the ultra-conservative far right, but that shares much more in common with the woke left conservatives. The theory of knowledge, the woke left, is therefore critical, blah, 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 blah. Okay, it's all about uncovering what prevalent power dynamics hide from us. I think what he's getting at there is that some of our chaps have read James Burnham, and they understand that power flows from an organised minority, not just from making better arguments and going off to the voting station every 4 years.
Well, you don't really need to read James Burnham to know that.
Yes.
Have you seen the film Zulu? An organised minority beats a disorganised majority. I mean, that's true of all human history, whereby if you have fewer people of singular purpose, you can achieve good things.
Yes, the organised minority always beats the disorganised masses.
The Spartans at Thermopylae.
Yes.
There are loads of examples throughout history.
Yes. I mean, unfortunately, both of those examples lost in the end, but I mean, they held out for a very long time. Mm-hmm. So we're given that. Anyway, so this thread goes on, and I can't cover all of this Lindsay breakdown because it is an epic mess. But I did want to get into one of his many long threads, because he gives us the actual structure as to what's going on here, because there is a deep, dark cabal, and it does lead somewhere. So he explains to us the basic structure of cults is like 3 rings. Each ring might be divided up into levels. In the centre, there's the inner circle, who knows what's going on and uses the cult. Beyond that is an inner school and an outer school of members. Outer school initiates build social networks and safe spaces in which they can exploit their dissident ideas and vent their emotional frustration, usually bent towards their growing belief in their own systematic oppression and the relevance of their Volkish identity. So Volkish is just German for people, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I think basically he's describing people like me in this, because I do actually care about my people, and I do think that we're under attack, and I am putting out stuff on social media. So there's lots of characters like me who fall in, and probably a lot of the people in the audience as well. He's talking about them. We are in the outer school of this vast conspiracy, which is worrying. Apparently, we believe that America is fundamentally flawed or already failed or the root of all evil. I think that's a misconception. I think that America, and I'm sure most of our audience does as well, thinks that America is fundamentally good, and it started from a good place, but it's become rotten and corrupted. I think that's a closer interpretation of it. He goes on to say that about 2 years ago, there was this takeover, the woke right, and he calls out Aaron McIntyre, was fast-tracked to become the inner school adept. So Aaron McIntyre, who I know, is the inner adept of this Zoroastrian, Luciferian, Archangel Michael plot. Now, the interesting thing for me, right, is that, I mean, I've sat there with Aaron until late into the evening smoking cigars. Well, I didn't smoke cigars. I don't like them. And, drinking. And he never brought this up to me. In fact, I know a lot of the people that he's called out in this, and none of them have actually ever I've never heard any of them mention this plot.
Well, that's why it's so insidious, Dan, because...
Yes. But I mean, at what stage do you get brought in on it?
I don't know. Well, we're only outer circle folks, I'm afraid.
Well, apparently, but you have to understand quite how sophisticated this is, right? Okay, so beyond the Aaron McIntyre layer, that there's a well-developed, well-funded network of activists in woke inner right school that are doing a variety of activities, building a parallel economy. Right? The reason we're building a parallel economy is because we get banned from everything all the time. But we get debanked or chucked off YouTube, so we have to build... I mean, Lotus Eaters is a parallel economy. It's our own video platform because we have to do this. Right, but it gets deeper, right? These people are organised and funded and are strategically targeting geographical areas to begin to consolidate power and initiate a plan called regionalism, which is ultimately a WEF globalist plan.
But I like, localism or regionalism, whatever you want to call it.
Yes.
I kind of prefer it to nationalism in some ways, actually.
So it's true, we do like localism, we do like supporting our local community, but what we're discovering now is that is actually a globalist plan. Like all cults, the woke right have an inner circle, so we're at the top level now, the inner circle level, who control the cult and know its purposes. Unfortunately, James doesn't know who is leading this, and he does point a finger. He says, I don't know who these people are, but I could venture some guesses. Charles Hayward is a clear possibility, but he's so dumb that he's probably just a tool. Well, as it happens, Charles Hayward writes for Islander magazine. Issue 2 of Islander magazine. So if you want to read the words of the probabilistic master of the cabal which is controlling the world, you can check out Islander 2, which is only going to be on sale for about another week. So if you want to get that, then do so. Go
if you want to save Trump from the devil, you need to read our magazine.
Go to our merch store on our website, and you can read people like Aaron McIntyre and Charles Hayward who kindly write for us. Right.
And myself as well, I'm in there.
Oh, yes, and you, yes. Right. He explains that the inner circle knows the real purpose of the rise of the woke right. So, and he even has some guesses as to what this woke right thing is all about. So apparently it's to throw conservatism into a losing ditch, right? Create a wedge faction that splits conservatism. And I think what he's getting at there is the people who are actually based split off from the rhinos. Something like that.
Well, I think that what's going on at the minute is people are trying to figure out who fundamentally agrees with their vision of how to save Western civilization or not.
Yes.
Do you side with the globalist leftist interpretation or another one?
Well, that's why my original understanding of what these people are doing is that they want to be on the right but have the foreign policy of Hillary Clinton, and many of us don't, and that marks us out on the woke right apparently. But apparently it's all designed to fracture and balkanize the US for this WEF globalist plan, and encouraging a big sort. So fracturing the US. So this is people moving from California to Texas or Florida if they're right wing. They're all part of this as well. And it's a fatal wedge operation against the conservative movement. So whoever's controlling this, along with the Archangel Michael and the Zoroastrian demon and Lucifer, is up to some pretty insidious things. And James doesn't want to make sure we forget quite how serious it is. As he says here, it's not a random cult. It's the one running the world.
Yeah, well, it seems like whoever's running this cult is very, very clever, whoever they are.
Well, exactly. I think is incumbent on us to find this sort of great pope of woke rightism that is perpetrating this vast conspiracy and controlling the world for dark forces, because you can't let something like this, now that James Lindsay has uncovered this, you cannot let this stand, clearly.
No, of course
and
not.
it turns out you actually can, because what you can do is you can basically just we're in the digital age these days, so you can trace back the origin of the term woke right and find out where it comes from. Who actually coined this term? So this, ladies and gentlemen, is my big Scooby-Doo reveal. Who is at the head of this vast globalist unholy alliance? It's Josh!
It was me all along. So yes, if you look, we did a video on the 30th of September 2023.
So over a year ago, you coined the term woke right.
Yes. That's me. It was me all along. It was me telling Oran McIntyre what to do, and then Charles Haywood, I'm like the Emperor. Okay.
When did you do the deal with Saint Michael, Lucifer, and Araman then?
We go way back.
Right. Okay. Maybe you went to school together or something.
Yeah. But no. What I was actually talking about here, for the sake of actual transparency now, is that we had a phrase where we just used to refer to people who were sort of stupid, for want of a better word. That's what we kind of meant. People who didn't presume that it's possible that they might make mistakes, that they're dogmatic and they're unable to discuss their ideas. They use psychological manipulation to dodge criticism. They reduce the point to the point of not seeing nuance. They're willing to force their opinions on others. They treat their ideas and the individuals who hold them as inseparable. They define their values based on the values of their political opponents, so they're just a reaction to the woke and a sort of mirror image, and they go down in these purity spirals reminiscent of the left. And basically the TLDR, if you will, is doing these things prevents you from seeing the world as it truly is, and you need to be a political realist to assume power and to keep it. If you do these things, even if you do assume power, you won't be able to keep it, and you'll have wound up so many people that you will meet a very quick end.
So you coined this term, and this was kind of the first time it was being used.
Well, it was one of the things that we discussed in the office.
Right.
Rory, I, and even Hugo back in the day.
Yeah.
This is sort of early days Lotus Eater stuff. Just to refer to people who were incapable of talking about things at any sort of high level and were just mudslinging, and you could even call them grifters if you wanted to.
People who sort of attach themselves to our sort of cause but don't really understand it.
Yes.
And are just,
rabid dogs that will sort of go after anything they can find that resembles something they can chase.
So you did a couple of contemplations on this, because I see this is part one. Presumably there's two parts.
Yeah.
There's two parts of it. So you did a couple of videos on this to describe a phenomena that you could see, and then you basically kind of left it alone and just didn't really use it again.
Yes.
But characters like Lindsay and Kissin must have seen this term and thought, right, I'm going to take that.
Well, I mean, it's not the hardest term to come up with. I can believe that they just came up with it on their own.
Right.
Either that or they're devoted to watching my series on the website, which everyone should be.
Yes. Yes, quite possibly.
But yeah, it had its time. I did it for a couple of weeks just to sort of try and instruct people how to approach politics in a way that is a bit more in keeping with political realism, really. That was what I was trying to go for, is see the world as it is and address it correctly, because there are all of these sorts of almost psychological and philosophical errors that people make commonly, and I'm just trying to say, be reasonable and approach things with a level head rather than being stupid and pig-headed.
So that leaves us with two distinct possibilities then, doesn't it? The first possibility is that you are the Grand Pope of this conspiracy, sitting above Charles Haywood and Aaron McIntyre, contemplating the destruction of the US and handing it over to the WEF on behalf of Lucifer, Araman, and Saint Michael. Alternatively, James Lindsay could just be full of shit and be a lefty who doesn't quite fit in with the right and is trying to turn this into a left-wing party that just hasn't rejected him like the left did.
I like the first one better.
Yes,
more fun.
Yes, it is a bit more exciting. So, finally, we should give mention to Stelios, who tried to explain this. Poor old Stelios. He keeps on putting out these really thoughtful tweets and then getting dogpiled by everyone on the right.
Because of course, Stelios and I had these conversations about the nature of thought, and we basically approached it as a sort of partnership of psychologist and philosopher, just saying, here's how you should think about politics in a more politically realistic way. And Stelios tried to say, well, we shouldn't allow Lindsay and Kissin to define these terms, and explained why.
Yeah, and I think everybody on our side dogpiled Stelios because they thought that he was trying to redefine the term, and what he was actually saying was, no, it's Lindsay who's redefined the term. And he actually goes on to say this isn't that useful, which is why you and Stelios talked about this like a year ago and then never returned to it again because you didn't find it useful.
Yeah. Well,
yes.
Also, both Stelios and I don't necessarily want to speak for him, but I imagine that he's not that attached to the term, and I agree with some of the criticism that it has been tainted by Lindsay, and therefore you shouldn't use it anymore. I agree with that.
Which is basically what he's saying there. But everybody misunderstood him and piled on poor Stelios. He's a proper thinker. I don't think you should really read Stelios's tweets unless you're up there in terms of right side of the bell curve. But anyway, decide for yourself. Either James, is it James Lindsay? Yes. James. Either James Lindsay has gone completely stark raving mad, or Josh and Stelios are in league with the devil. It's one of the two.
I hope you appreciated that segment from the podcast to the Lotus Eaters, and if you want to see what else we're doing, you can follow Connor's series, Tomlinson Talks, where he talks about the Reform Party conference, and if you want to see all the other things we're putting out, you can follow us on Twitter. Thank you very much for watching, and goodbye.